Hello, this is Jefferson Alders from givingisgood.org. Today we have Dena Petty from Mentors Care, and Mentors Care is a 501c3 nonprofit that focuses on at-risk youth. And I very rarely do I ever get that perfectly right. You know, you do a lot of different things, but what we're going to do is we're going to hear and talk about some of the things that they focus on. Dena's going to tell us about where they're headed. She's going to tell us about their evolution, where you started at, and kind of walk us through how did you get to Mentors Care? What was the inspiration for the idea? And how do people get involved? Because the main thing that we always want to do is we want to get the people out there on the internet the ability to see what you're doing, how you're doing it, so that they go, golly, you know, I have a heart for that. Yeah. I have a passion to go help kids in that are with those struggles, and from there they can get involved. They can give money. They can come and help and give their time. Now I understand you work a lot in the Midlothian area.
Ellis County. We're in 6 high schools in Ellis County.
Okay.
But we're in conversations with several other districts as well. Okay. So we're on the cusp of expansion. So
big expansion's good.
Yes.
Right? It's
because
good.
It's working. Yeah. So we want to see it as in many schools as where a fit, where it needs to be, where it's called to be. And so we're just trying to be obedient to that.
Okay. So how do you get involved with a school district where a school district or a high school says, hey, look, this program is really good. You know, this is what this kids that are struggling, or maybe they've got domestic issues, parents are, you know, not taking care of them. How does one go about helping a school district? Because, you know, the school districts are kind of closed off. It's government, it's city, it's county. How did you get involved?
Well, first of all, at-risk high school students are in every district across the nation. I mean, there might be a handful that do not have that student population. But we're serving a niche in that we serve high school, and that we also serve the rural and suburb districts. Okay. And that's because it's usually underserved. There's little to nothing for these students, but you have all the same issues as urban. You just don't have the programs available. And then in each of those districts, you have great people that want to connect. They realize there's an issue, there's a problem with kiddos that are having a hard time, having struggles, and they want to serve, they want to do, but they don't know how to connect. But the schools are saying, please come help us, because there is mandates coming down from legislation in Austin to address the social and emotional well-being of students. Okay. And educators want to educate. And so they need help dealing with all these things. There's over 70 since 1900 that the schools are asked to address, which are mainly things that parents are, you know, at home you would learn. Right. And so for educators to be able to educate and do what they need to do, they need help. And so we're just that extra layer to work with the schools. We work with the counselors, the administrators, the staff. They identify the students who are considered at risk, and there's state indicators of why they're at risk. And so they recommend a student to us. We have a full-time coordinator on staff at each of the high schools. And what they do is they interview the student to see if they really truly are a good fit for us. And then they have to have a permission slip, go home. Then we also go recruit mentors at each of our communities that we serve. We find adults, loving adults who are really interested and want to serve. We do an application process, references, background checks, training, and then that coordinator is making sure that that meeting is happening at school for 1 hour once a week between 26 to 28 weeks during the school year. We pull them out of a non-core class. It's very organized, very structured. The coordinator gives them a folder that has talking points. So you're not just saying, go talk with a kid. You actually have something to go by as a guideline. It's all about the relationship, but it's as a guideline.
how do you find, what is a mentor? Like, so when I think about, okay, how does somebody get involved with Mentors Care? What is a mentor? How do you find the mentor?
Well, we recruit. We talk to different groups, church groups, civic groups, corporations in that area that they realize that, you know, this is an opportunity that they can serve. And so we'll go talk to them and talk to these different groups and see if they would be interested in serving. And it's 1 hour once a week.
Okay.
And it's amazing, just during the school year, how life can turn around for a student if somebody's truly investing in them one-on-one. We find a little semi-private area, not completely private, it protects everybody. And so it's during the school day. And then they also have grades to go over. We print off grades, and then if they were not passing, we print off daily grades.
Do the kids perceive it differently because it's not like teachers or principals or vice principals? I mean, do they treat it differently because someone's coming in saying, look, I don't even have to be here. I don't get paid by the school. I'm here because I want to invest time in helping you. Do they perceive that as help and love, and that somebody's actually investing in them?
You betcha. And that's
does that
actually
make a difference?
that's a great question, because it's really true. So the schools, their job is to keep the students between the ditches. You know, they have all these rules and regulations and laws and everything they got to follow. So if they're in our program, they're at risk. So they're acting out, they're not showing up, they're not turning in grades, risky behaviors and all those kind of things. So what we do is we set aside time. They allow us that 1 hour once a week with that student, so that they have that relationship to freely talk openly with that person, especially the coordinator. So for instance, you have a mentor that you're meeting with, and say a student is dealing with something really tragic or really heavy. We're saying, okay, the mentor, we're just saying, please just be a friend. They just talk openly, they have open conversations. I believe, like the statement says, you can't preach the gospel to somebody that's starving. You're going to feed them first.
Sure.
So it's the same thing. We're chipping away at all the issues that are keeping them from being successful in school. Not that we're therapists, we're friends.
Sure.
But now if we find out something major is going on with the student, we bring that to the coordinator. And the coordinator's job is to connect to the community, all the community assistance available to that student. That's their, kind of the social worker on campus.
Okay.
And so that, you know, we'll connect them together to help that student stay in school, not only stay in school, but be successful in school. So we find out, are they hungry? Are they homeless? Do they need clothes? Do they need shoes? Like for instance, we had a student that finally picked up his grades and was doing great, so he could be in extracurricular activities. And he loves wrestling, he's quite an athlete. And so he signed up, and then I got a phone call from the coach, and he said, great kid, he's doing great, but the only pair of shoes he has is army boots. And I went, we'll get him some tennis shoes. That's easy.
Simple. Of all the things we can do, that's simple.
Yeah. So he's excited. He's got a new pair of shoes. He's in extracurricular. He's buying into this whole system of education. It's a win-win.
So here's a simple question, okay? Because I don't believe everybody understands this concept. At-risk youth is not just a kid who you know is doing drugs, or you know is drinking at school, or you know, define at risk for people so that they go, you know, so it kind of fills out what some people just think at-risk youth means this. What does it really mean? Like, give us a few examples of at-risk kids.
Well, there are state at-risk indicators that we go by, but we also add a few of our own. So at-risk indicators would be first family member to graduate high school, have moved a lot, single parent home, behind their peers in grades, homelessness, parents incarcerated, bad attendance, all those kind of things. And so because you have at-risk for us means at risk of not graduating high school. That's when they're referred to us. They're at risk of not graduating.
So that's the defining term. Are they going to graduate or not?
Right.
And then
they're on track to not graduate. Like their trajectory, they may not graduate.
I gotcha.
So if we don't step in there and stand in the gap and be a friend to this student and find out what's going on in their life, they're probably going to walk away from school.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes,
And
which is going to be an issue for every community.
Yeah.
If you have kids without an education, They're desperate, right? And they're not going to be able to improve themselves. It's all about being the best person you can be and be what you were born to be. Everybody has gifts and talents, and so go find out what that is, but you got to get this education first. But here's the thing, if we've got them kind of trapped at school where we can talk to them, I mean, they love it. Sounds bad, but they love it. They really do. And they get
They're out of a class.
Right. And they have a friend.
And they get to talk to somebody, and there's no pressure. They get to have a discussion, and nobody's grading it. And I mean, I would think, hey, if you pull me out of a core class,
Non-core.
Non-core. Pull me out of a non-core class, I'll be happy to, it's either sit in a class or talk to somebody who actually wants to talk to me.
Right, exactly. And so they buy in, and they really do love it. And they build that relationship of trust. That's a friend, really cares. It takes a little while to build that, though, because most of these students are coming from a place where the adults in their life are truly have been abusive, neglectful, or just non-existent. And so they don't really trust adults, a lot of our kids. I would say about 85 to 90% of our students have little to no support at home. So you have 10 to 15% that are just making bad decisions and maybe around a bad crowd. So we just reiterate what they're hearing at home, good advice at home. But for about 85 to 90% of our kids, they're not hearing these things at home. So that's why we have the talking points. The talking points is about, let's talk about, one, buying into education, why it's important. We have 24 each year. We have 4 years curriculum. And so we're going to talk about why school is important. Like, for instance, if what does it cost to live? If you're going to drop out of school, this is probably how much you're going to make. And
$10 an hour.
Right. And they all say that's plenty enough money. And we're like, okay, but are you going to have a girlfriend? Because that's not. They don't have, they just don't understand.
Well, they're just kids.
They're just kids.
$10 an hour means something at that point in time, but you know what that means if to raise a family on $10 an hour is
it's right. It's exactly. And they need to see reality. And then in the middle part of that, then we start talking about what it takes to be a successful person, like respect. That is a big deal for our kids. They have this flawed philosophy that I'm only going to respect somebody if they respect me first. That's wrong. You respect authority that's over you. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but you need to respect that person. That's a big deal for kids. So we go through a lot of different ones like that. And then we talk about, what do you see yourself doing in the future? What are your gifts and talents? What are your goals? And then we list out hundreds of jobs. These are different opportunities that you could do and see if something sparks. And so through that relationship of the mentor and the student, when they become a friend, a trusted friend, once they break through that barrier where, okay, you don't want anything from me, you're not here to hurt me, and you're not paid to do this, you're a volunteer mentor. So once they realize that, then maybe I'm going to listen to you, and you're going to speak all these great truths to them about them, and then you can start working on what it means to be a successful person.
So do y'all take kids, an at-risk youth, let's say y'all identify one or the counselors identify one in their freshman year, and y'all have enough curriculum or you have enough mentors to help them get through 4 years if that family is neglectful and these kids are, headed down the wrong paths, but y'all have enough curriculum and help, or you need more help to get more kids through. I'm assuming do you have that many mentors? Could you use more mentors?
We can always use mentors. There's always a waiting list of at-risk youth. Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Because that is a big deal. But we have between 50 to 60 students at each of our high schools. That's our caseload for one coordinator. Wow. So the most we're going to take is 60 for one coordinator, because that's a lot. You're dealing with all their issues, not just 1 hour scheduling. It's 60 kids who are considered at risk.
Okay, let me ask this question. A coordinator. Does the coordinator work for the school, or does the coordinator work with y'all?
Works for Mentors Care.
Okay.
So the way that we've built this, and it's really amazing because it's sustainable. It works. So we do seek funding because it costs more than what we're getting from the schools, but we contract with the schools. Okay. When we contract with the school, it's an agreement with us and them that they're going to give us a space in the high school, an office, and a place where the kids can come, sign in to go meet with their mentor, where the mentor can come in from the public, sign in, they meet the student, and then meet somewhere semi-private in that area. But we have a full-time coordinator on staff that we pay, train. We do everything. It's almost like, what is it, a turnkey? It's a turnkey.
Yeah.
If you sign with Mentors Care, if you sign with us, we are going to recruit the mentors. We're going to do everything, background checks, training, and everything. We do it. And that's why that's that extra layer, here's the issue though, and this is another thing we need, not just mentors, but our school districts all need and want this program.
I bet.
There's not one that hasn't wanted it. The money is always the issue because they don't have it in their budget
They can't
for mentoring.
fund it. They can't fund it.
Right. And so we have found a way, if we can find people, corporations, or whatever want to seed a school funds, we build a contract for 3 years. For a first year and a half, that is seeded. By the middle of the second year, it gives them time to get it in their budget, and they also have time to see that it works and it's paying for itself. By the end of the third year, we'll sign another contract that's all in the school. But they have time to see. So if you talk about money, and I hate talking about money, but for school districts, it's bottom line.
Yeah.
Giving is good. We're at the right place. That's part of what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to figure out what it is that y'all need to help you expand, to help more kids.
Yeah.
So money is a part of the discussion. There's a people factor. There's people that want to be involved, but money is a factor in any nonprofit. Nonprofit, just so everybody knows, means you're running a company. You're just not making any money.
Right, you're
Right.
bottoming out zeros, right?
You're doing it because your heart tells you this is what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So keep walking us through
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So if a school says yes, this is a win-win. And here's the thing. So school districts, if you have a student that drops out of high school, the school district loses $8,600 on average for that student. Plus, if attendance is poor, they're losing money every day a student is not there. So if you look at just money, it pays for itself.
Is that why they call you nonstop during the day if your kids are sick at home? I've always wondered that,
No, they care. They care. They want you there. But it does cost the school district money.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I try to look at the win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
You have kids who are lost in your communities. You have kids that need somebody in their life that are speaking real truth into them because they're raising themselves and one another, and that's not working. And you have a community of people that are great people that are hearing, I want to help my community. I want to get involved, but I don't know how.
Right.
The doors in the schools are open saying, please come help us. Yes, we want the people in here. And then it's not that we invented mentoring. We just found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
So we've been able to prove now, after 5 years, well, we've been doing this is our 11th year, but we have 5 year statistics that we put in a database to be able to keep up with it, that if a student has a mentor for 2 or more years, we're graduating 98%.
That's huge.
It's massive. It's massive. And it's not just the numbers, it's lives are changed forever. I mean, the stories that come out of our schools, for instance, this year, this is just one story, and I'm telling you there's hundreds. Well, we've served over 1,000 students now, starting with one little school and branching out to 6. But this year we had a student that was in juvenile detention school because he was selling drugs. Okay, so while he was in jail, his mom died of cancer. He's out of juvie. He comes to school. They're going to enroll him. He found an aunt and uncle he didn't know very well. Not real good situation, but it's a roof over his head. Right. He's going to get back in school. The counselor did an amazing job at the school, finally getting him to open up and talk about what's going on. And he finally opened up, started crying, and said, I don't do drugs. I hate drugs. I was selling drugs so I can buy medicine for my mom who was on cancer, who had cancer. So he's a great kid. He made a bad mistake, but he felt like that was the only thing he could do. So now he has a loving mentor. He's doing great in school. He never misses. Wow. And we're another connection for him. But that's the kind of stories. And I wrote a book. It's actually called What the Community Doesn't See. Because
I didn't know that.
Well, I hadn't published it or anything, but I've written it and keeping up with stories because if you go to the same grocery stores every day, the same churches every day, you have the same people groups, your kids are going to the same soccer practices, you see all the same people. But there is a whole group of people in every community that are really struggling. They're lost.
Sure.
So the reason I say that is because I was an at-risk kid. I was a kid who grew up in a subdivision, looked like we were all good. My dad was not a good dad. He was very, very abusive, neglectful. He was doing illegal things. My mother was not emotionally well. Okay, so by the time I was 16, my parents divorced. And I was the kid that hardly ever showed up to school. Nobody knew my name. People made fun of me. I sat by myself every day at school. I still get stomach aches walking into a cafeteria at school. And then when I was 18, I lived in my car. I had to get away from a bad situation. And hung wallpaper on construction sites, living in my car. Not a good situation.
Providing for yourself.
Providing for myself, raised money to go to college. So I went to Louisiana Tech, didn't know anything. I had met my future husband and found out he went to Louisiana Tech. So I decided I want to go to college. I was not prepared or ready for that at all. But I go into the registrar's office and they said, okay, give us some money. And I gave them the money and they said, do you have your ACT or SAT scores? And I went, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know. I mean, I never had a parent wake me up to go to school. I never had a parent look for a report card. They could care less. So in every community, you have other me's, and honestly, a lot worse situation than I ever had. That'll break your heart. But unless you get to know them, if they're at risk, if they're angry, not showing up, not turning in work, acting out, risky behaviors, pregnancies, all these things, there's usually a reason why. And if you don't get to know them,
there's something in the background that's going on.
Exactly. And so if we can start talking to them about being successful, meaning first graduating high school, big deal. But then being a successful person, thinking about the future, and you've got that one-on-one, it works.
So your motivation for Mentors Care is from your past life, what you lived through, and you've developed a system to help kids in the future in the school districts that you're working in. Do you see this, if you had more money, and sometimes in the interviews I try to make this as simple for people as possible, if you had more money, could you help more kids?
Yes. Because we're ready to go into every school, high school that wants us, honestly. I mean, we've figured it out. We've got the nuts and bolts. Now it's just going to take funding because the schools do not have the seed money, a lot of them. For instance, our last school district this year was their first year, Ferris High School. Very impoverished area.
Very rural. A lot of Ferris is rural area.
They didn't have the funds, but they had their 100% free lunch and breakfast at that school. Very few adults in the community that would be able to mentor. So when I talked to them, they said, we really want you. And I had somebody that wanted to seed the money, he wrote the check because he believes in this so much. So the school district said yes. So here next year, in the middle of the year, they're going to pick up the contract. But what happened was the first year, this year, we were saying, okay, if we could get 20 mentors to the high school, I'll feel like we hit a home run. Well, we're not even in the middle of December, and she's got 45 mentors
ready to help
going into the high
kids.
schools, and the stories coming out of that already is just unbelievable.
That's huge.
It's huge. It's changing lives, changing communities. And actually, Maypearl High School, I presented to the school board, how we did that year with statistics and everything. And Mr. Bowling said, and there was somebody else on the school board said, hands down, this is changing our community.
You know, what's interesting, just because I'm a business guy, and we have companies, and if you just look at the business behind it, $8,600 per kid, I know. You would think mathematically, of course, that's not built into anybody's budget at first, right?
It's
the
not
loss
there.
of $8,600 per kid. No one operates a business based on that kind of a loss.
Correct.
From a school district perspective, I would think.
Right.
I run school districts.
Right.
But you would think that that would be simple math when they look at how many kids drop out. It's probably a fairly normal rate. How do they, skew themselves up or down according to that? And if there was a program coming in with really good statistics showing, it's funny that in our business, and I'm just correlating this back to you because I'm thinking about you standing in front of a school board. How do you sell this to them to where it starts to make sense? So we do it simply. We say we fund families, not files. Well, really, you're putting kids back into school, not even statistics.
Right.
You're at 99% or 98% that once you attach a mentor to them, you can keep them in school, which saves the school $8,600. But when you start showing them pictures of kids,
Right.
that's got to mean something.
It does.
You know?
So you got to have the
it's
numbers.
not just a statistic. Now
Right.
it's a kid's face. Look at that kid.
Right. In fact, we had, it was very cool. We had 9 young men that, I want to say 3 of them were homeless. They were sleeping, in a friend's house, and a friend's house, and a friend's house. One of the other kids, there was 9 of them. There was one of them, the mother had cancer.
Yeah.
And honestly, they were just trying to make it, all these guys. And, they were cowboying it up on the weekends, but they had serious lives. They had to work, really struggling.
Yeah.
Making bad decisions, And it looked like they were not going to graduate. And so I have a connection to a Navy sniper. These are guys,
Yeah.
I have a Navy sniper friend, and he always said, if I ever need to come talk to kids, I went, I think it's time. I think you need to come talk to them. And so he spoke to this group, and I'm telling you, saucers for eyes. I mean, they were just deer in the headlight. It was awesome. Well, the principal came in, and other people, it was cool. We were bringing everybody together.
Yeah.
And they didn't even really ask any questions. They were scared to death. But he talked to them about the importance of hard work and finishing. And come on, you can do this,
Yeah.
And it was really sweet. So I heard that next day, one of the boys had slept in because he had worked late. He had a late shift or something. And the other boys found out he wasn't going to be at school. They went to his window, knocked on the window until he woke up, and brought him to school. And anyway, so they started doing that, getting each other to school, a little team.
Yeah.
So they all graduated but one. Every one of them.
How many of them were there?
There was 9 total of those boys, all but one. One of them walked away. He found a job construction. He said, this is going to be, but he had a hard time. Life was really hard for him. So I think.
But you took a group of 9 kids that were probably, maybe none of them, maybe a couple of them, and you turned it into 8 graduating.
Right.
And at least having a chance from there on out. And the 9th one, hey, you never know. Life could,
He'll remember.
He could do fantastic.
No one knows.
Exactly. And that's what I always say. It's not about the numbers. We want to graduate them all. But here's the thing. If we have a moment where we could have one person speaking to them at least one time, they're never going to forget that.
Yeah.
And it's not in vain. It's not wasted. Right. So even if they do walk away and they make bad decisions, one day they're going to remember that truth that was spoken over them. And it might be the thing that makes them turn it around. I believe that.
That's cool.
I don't believe it's wasted time.
No, and you meet people throughout your life, especially as a younger man, woman, that you remember the people that made a real difference in your life. I had several. I just lost one of them. He was a friend of mine, Young Life. He ran a big portion of Young Life.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been at risk in high school or just in high school and Young Life is in your high school, they have that one guy, the leader, he's their mentor, but he works with a lot of kids. And, that person for me, he made a big difference in my life, So I understand the concept. We just didn't have a mentor's care when we were in school.
Yeah.
That would have been, because we had lots of kids that didn't make it. It would have been a huge difference.
I would have loved it. I would have given anything to have this. That's why I do it. That's why I'm so passionate.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing the kids in my head. Like there's so many more. And let's go do this.
Let's help them all.
Let's do it.
We
Why
just
not?
need more mentors and a little more money, and let's get some kids.
There's enough resources.
Through life.
There's enough resources.
Yeah.
It's just bringing awareness. That's it. It's just bringing awareness. And if somebody has a passion in their community, that they want it in their community, then contact me, Mentors Care, info@mentors.care. That'll come straight to me. Set me up in a meeting with the superintendent and principal. That's really who we need to talk to, because if they buy in, if they see the need, we can make it happen. I really believe that. It's never, if somebody really wants it, it's not going to keep us from being there. We'll figure it out.
So let's talk about real quick the people out there that you think are a good source that come and help you. Because I know you've probably identified some people that it might be a certain type of business. It may be people in a certain industry that it works for them.
Yeah.
You know, because it's during the middle of the day. Because
Right.
kids are in school, because you're meeting kids at school, right? So do you have a bunch of a certain type of person that you know said, hey, a lot of these people really like to help us and they do really well? Because there are people coming on to Giving is Good and they're going, hey, I want to help. What do I do? Where do I go? A lot of people want to give. They want to give money. They want to give their time. They have no idea where. So, and then we can help them find you by them identifying with, hey, this is a lot of the type of people that help Mentors Care.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So you can go to the website if somebody just wants to give, one-time gift or ongoing giving or whatever. We have corporations like John Houston Homes is in the Red Oak area, and we're in Red Oak High School.
Good builder.
So what they have done is they've partnered with us to give $1,000 to Mentors Care for every employee of John Houston Homes who's a mentor.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's an awesome partnership.
So now we kind of, hey, what can companies do? So if there's
in
a
your
company
community,
Yeah.
you know that's a fit for us.
Yeah.
Bring us in, and if you maybe could partner with the school district to somehow figure out how to get the funds, because we have to have a full-time person on staff at the school.
To coordinate.
Right, and then the cost of the program, which is little, but you gotta have the funds.
Nothing's free.
I know.
You can't run a company.
And we have great people, that are amazing. We have former assistant principal, former military, former youth pastors, former communities and schools directors. I mean, they're just great people that see this really is working. This is where I want to be, because this is really being with the kids. And that coordinator being on campus, they also are there for the kids. When, say, you're having a moment, it's a breakdown, there's something happened the night before, and school counselors are so busy with their academic advising and all of that kind of thing. Some of them have 500 students in their caseload. That's impossible to get to sometimes. So we're another layer. So if they're in our program, we don't let them just hang out in our office, but if there's truly a need, they can come in and be with our coordinator, who's very capable of helping them if they can't get to their mentor that day and they can't get to the counselor. So
I started answering my own question. And so I'm gonna kind of bring it around for everybody that's watching. If you were an at-risk kid, right, and you lived kind of the way Dena lived, and you went through that and you came out of it, and now you want to give back. That's kind of the perfect person for a mentor to help you, right?
Yes.
Or if you have a company and you want that company to give back and you want to help the community, helping kids that are in the community get through school and go on to be successful, which will at some point might be your future employees.
Exactly.
There becomes how you can truly help.
And part of the things we talk about is showing up as half the battle. Or another talking point is giving 120% when no one's looking. These kids need to hear this. They're not hearing this stuff anywhere else.
Right.
It's a long story about Jesse. He's actually a video on our website, but if you want to watch it, a real short video, but great kid. He graduated beating all the odds. He went to technical school to work on cars. He did so well that they sent him to BMW school in Florida. He came back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, got a job. He makes more money than my husband, I think. He's married and has 2 children, and he just signed up to be a mentor.
Wow.
So when you talk about full circle,
Yes.
yeah,
That's phenomenal.
it is.
That's such a cool story.
we really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
You know, that what you're doing, helping kids and the community, and you know, that's the kind of stuff that we just need more people to find out about you and what Mentors Care is doing and how the program works. We need more school districts to understand it.
Right.
We need more companies to help fund it. We need more mentors to get involved to help more kids. You know, it's just need more.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
That's super cool.
Thank you.
Hey, we really appreciate you coming
Thank you
today.
so
I love
much.
what you do. I think there's going to be some people that really enjoy hearing about what you're doing. It is special. I don't know of anything else like it that I know of, in the sense that how involved you are with the school districts and how you're identifying children and everything. So I think I'm gonna see how I can help.
That's awesome.
See if we can help
Thank
some
you.
corporate sponsors find you, just because it's pretty valid.
It is.
Thank
It
you
is.
for coming.
Thank
We
you
really
so
appreciate it.
much, Jefferson.
Absolutely. Thank you
You're
for coming.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.